Hi, my name's Joe Sharick. Thanks for taking a minute to check out my profile. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, just give you a little bit of a background into who I am, how I got into music, and what I'm up to these days. So, when I was really young, my mom made me take piano lessons, and you couldn't get me to practice for more than 10 minutes at a time. So, that didn't last as long as one would hope, maybe a year. I ended up getting back into it about 7 years later, and it was mostly because of movies and video games that I was playing that the soundtracks were just phenomenal. Hans Zimmer, everybody loves Hans Zimmer. In particular, the Final Fantasy game series, if anyone knows of that, Nobuo Uematsu is my favorite living composer right now. He just creates the best melodies. And his orchestrations are beautiful too. And so I put my first MP3 player on, and I would just rewind 5 seconds, and I'm just sitting there figuring out how to play it by ear. And my mom was like, "You should take lessons again," and I was like, "No," but I ended up doing it because I did want to. I wanted to get back into music, and so I studied for about 4 years in high school, and then got into college. I went to Lancaster Bible College for undergrad. I studied piano performance. I did trombone for the orchestras and the winds ensembles, and I played some percussion, and I did the chamber singers and the choral groups and things like that. Whenever I got a chance, I loved singing. And I also got into accompanying while I was there too. So I became an accompanist for the private voice lessons, and I've learned a ton of stuff about singing actually, just from sitting in on those. But it's been fun, and I love working with people too. I love supporting people and just collaborating and putting something together that is beautiful. I've been doing that now for almost 8 years. I have since gone to Westchester for my master's. I'm actually finishing that in about 2 weeks from the time I'm filming this. So you might honestly be viewing this video and I would just completed it. So I'm getting a master's in piano pedagogy. So we do a lot of hands-on practical teaching things in that program, and I've just learned a lot about methods and working with people and performance preparation and just all these different things. So it's been great. I'm also doing some accompanying at Westchester right now. Some of my favorite sort of things to do are like theater gigs. I love playing for shows, and just getting a chance to just read music and play with a group of good, solid musicians and just put on a production, I think is one of the most fun things for me. So I find that really fulfilling. Why teach piano? Besides the fact that it's a good study and discipline, like any good study and discipline is, piano specifically in the realm of music, I think is a really good starting point for other instruments as well. So if you're looking to, improve guitar, for instance, a lot of people will get so far as to learn shapes of chords and scales, and then where do you get that next level of understanding? And I think that next level of improvising and training your ear and everything, I think it comes from theory. And music theory can be scary for some people, but I like incorporating into my lessons, because piano is very visual and tactile, and you can see and hear the theory of what you're doing. It makes it a good instrument to study just based on the visual patterns of the keyboard and everything laid out for you. So I don't just want people to be able to play, songs and pieces. I want people to understand how those songs and pieces work, how they're constructed, how to identify patterns so that they can take those into the next project they're working on, or they can learn to improvise, or they can learn to read pieces on sight better because they're starting to understand musically what's going on in the background. What usually happens when I see this, these notes together, and you start to realize that things have an order and a structure to them. That's why music theory is so great, and honestly, that's why I like the idea of piano the most. That's why I've gravitated towards piano. I play a couple different instruments, but this is definitely, I would say, I guess my wheelhouse. Yeah, I went to college for it. Oh, great. Okay. Um, so I found myself tutoring a lot of people in the environments I've been in, and and it wasn't even like an official tutoring thing. It was just like I see a lot of people, and like people are like, I'm having a problem with this, and I'm like, oh well, I think maybe we can work through that, and sometimes I don't even have the answers right away, but I like figuring things out with people and helping people see different angles of things until we get to a solution. So I found myself doing that a lot, and I was like, I would like, maybe I should teach. So that's kind of how I got into the teaching gig, honestly. And that was 5 years ago or somewhere around there. And I just picked up some students in a private studio, and that's when I decided to go back to school, as I had mentioned. So with the earlier students, I use the Francis Clark method is for younger students. It's called the music tree. And for the adult beginner, it's called the Keyboard Musician, in case you were looking for method books. Those are my preferred method books. I'm not married to them. You can, if you're working through a method or you have a certain preference, we can work with that as well. I like keeping, obviously there's an order to things and a progression of, you can't do this until we really covered these basics and this technique and things like that. But at the same time, I want to work with people, and it's like, if I want to play this, I really want to play this, or I've got a team together and I want to know how to improvise better because, I feel like we're doing these gigs together, and I just kind of feel stuck in these chord patterns of like, what else can I do? So there's a lot of different ways we can go around it. I'm very preferential to studying. Obviously, I talked about theory, but sight reading as well is a very practical skill to have. A lot of times singers come up to you and they're like, hey, can we run this? Or, hey, I have an audition cut. I'd like to work with this. Or there's also just a lot of opportunities in freelancing as far as collaborating goes. People are always looking for keyboard players, whether it's theater, whether it's singers, chamber ensembles, orchestras, things like that. There's a lot of opportunities. And just having a healthy, well-rounded foundation as far as all elements of piano go, I think that's a very important thing. So those are just a little bit of things about me, and I guess I could say some of my favorite composers. I guess my all-time favorites would be, I mentioned living right now, Nobuo Uematsu. He is the composer of the Final Fantasy series. I love it. I love that stuff. But Beethoven, I recently have come into a liking for some of Scriabin's music. I find that very helpful. But I think Beethoven's taken the cake right now as far as my favorite dead composers or decomposers. So yeah, bad dad jokes. It's kind of my thing. It's not my thing, but it's a thing I do. I try to keep things pretty humorous and pretty fun. At the same time, I think there is a level of excellence that should still be sought for, and I think you can achieve that. But I also don't want to sacrifice the joy of playing or fun for that, because what's the point if you're not enjoying what you're doing? So, lessons, we like to have fun. I don't take things more serious than they ought to be. I'll put it that way. There's a time and a place, and I think that finding that level of appropriate humor. Anyway, that's a side note. This video is getting a little long, so I'm gonna say thanks again for checking it out, and I hope that helps you understand a little bit more about me, and I'll look forward to hearing from you.